Well, hello, DCO Nation. Welcome to Deadcom Outdoors Radio. This is the show where the tide set the tone and the bite tells the story. We're diving into everything saltwater inshore kayak fishing, from lures and locations to weather, water, and winning tactics. If it helps you hook up on more fish, we're talking about it right here. So grab your paddle, check your drag, and here we go. Welcome, DCO Nation, to Deadcom Outdoors, right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. My name's Chris, but before we jump into the show, I'd like to invite all of you to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, Spotify. That's easy for me to say. Spotify, YouTube, so that you guys never miss a show, you never miss a fishing update, and just search Deadcom Outdoors and we can get connected. So, guys, today I have on Brian of the YouTube channel Small Craft Angler. And Brian, I think I've known you for what, a couple of years now? I'm trying to think about when we first met, but I think we've known each other. Well, I know at least a year. But so how are you? How you been doing?
Good. I've been great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We're gonna get into the fishing here in a little bit because I've been following you on Instagram at Small Craft Angler, and Brian has just been killing the redfish here as of late. He was down at the Wando and just caught just a ton of redfish. But again, I don't want to spoil it because we will get into it. And I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the lures, get all the tactics. So when I go down there, you can put me on some fish. But before we get going, let's just kind of give everybody a quick introduction. How long have you been saltwater fishing?
So I've been saltwater fishing just about all my life. I grew up down in Homestead, Florida, which is kind of the gateway to the Keys, if you know where that's at. I grew up saltwater fishing down there for snapper, grouper, trout. Did a lot of lobstering. Always out on the boat every chance I could get. Definitely did some freshwater fishing for bass and peacock bass in the canals down there.
Mhm.
And then in 2001, I left Florida. I moved up to Virginia area, Washington D.C. area. I lived up there the last I don't know 22 years. And honestly, I haven't done much fishing, or I hadn't done much fishing, I should say. I used to come down here for Bike Week, and one year I brought my mother-in-law, and she said, "I think I'm going to move here," and I was kind of ticked off because she was going to beat me here. Did, and she's been here for 10 years, and once she moved here, I said, well, I know where we're going. And me and my wife have been here for almost 4 years now. And I've always been fishing since we moved down here. But I'd say a year ago, just about this time, maybe August of 2024, I got pretty heavy into kayak fishing and back in.
Okay. So when you were down in Florida, were you kayak fishing in Florida?
No, it's always off of boats, to be honest. I was actually inspired, if I'm being totally honest. I've been watching your channel, I'd say, since the infancy, the last 5 years, when I didn't live here. And I said, oh, man, that's a great idea. And, when I started my channel, I actually thought it was going to be more about the boat. I don't know if you remember this. Actually, the first time I ever met you, I was with my wife, and we were on a Carolina skiff. And I want to say this is last year, but early, maybe in the spring. And I was out on the water, and I said, I think that's Chris in your hoodoo. And I recognized the color of it. I don't even think I've
Right.
never actually. And we approached you slowly, and you looked at me kind of crazy. And I said, hey, are you Chris? And you're like, yeah, I'm Chris. And my we just, I just said, hey, I really appreciate your channel. And we kind of went on our way and kept on fishing. But the story of my YouTube channel is kind of going to be small craft angler fishing from different um, uh, like kayaks and paddle boards and skiffs. Like, and I change my mind a lot. I do a lot of research. I get into that kayak or whatever it is, and then I move on. But the Old Town EPDL has totally wrecked my channel and wrecked my whole idea, to be honest with you, because I love that kayak so much that I haven't bought anything else, which my wife's very excited about. But just continue. I've got 3 of them now, and I continue to fish them. My son fishes out of one, so yeah, that's kind of my story and what I'm doing.
Yeah, great, great. Well, I do appreciate that. And of course, anytime you can make the host look good, you're going to get an invite onto the show. I'm just kidding. But so let's talk about the Old Town. What your rig is right now. How do you have that tricked out?
Yeah, so yeah, I run the Old Town EPDO 132, so the bigger boat, the first one they came out with. They have the 120 now, which I'd like to try sometime. But yeah, mine's I mean, it's I think that the initial thought behind it, with what I was wanting to get into, that was Merle's Inlet, the tide changes we have there. I had a Vibe kayak to start, and I went out there paddling, think I was going to be some paddle master and get in and out, no problem. It just
Mhm.
doesn't happen out there with the tide. So the thought with the EPDL was, hey, I can get out and get back and not have a problem, and it's definitely solved that for me. But yeah, as far as I mean, you want to know like how I have it rigged completely, or I don't want to get into too much detail if you that's
Hey,
not.
yeah, man, let's jump into it. But before you jump into that, as far as paddling Merle's Inlet goes, when I got my first kayak and started fishing Merle's Inlet, I was in a Hoodoo Element 100, which is a paddle. And for the first several years, that's how I did it. And you are totally dependent on the tide and the current because, like you said, we'll get a 6-foot drop in water, and that current is so swift that trying to paddle against it is near impossible. So, that's why when I had a chance to go ahead and upgrade to the pedal drive, I went ahead and did that. But yeah, you're exactly right. You can paddle it, but you just got to be smart about it in Merle's Inlet. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, but yeah, let's go ahead and let's talk about kind of what's on your kayak.
Yeah, sure. So I got some notes here because I can't remember everything. I'm kind of, if you see me.
Mhm.
I yeah, so I have, like I said, the Old Town EPDO 132. I have a Magellan fishing bag sitting up front that I do keep fish from time to time that I use. It kind of just clips on to the front of the kayak, so I run that, and then I run the Garmin Striker 7 SV currently, that I'm using on mine, and I use the Nocula 10 amp hour battery that powers that. And
So hang on. I'm going to stop you right there real quick because I use the Garmin Striker 4, and so I got a quick question for you, and maybe a little bit off topic, but do you use the waypoints on yours?
I do
Okay,
sometimes, not much, but I do, like, I mark spots and stuff like that. Most of
okay,
it's right there, and I kind of stopped doing it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
as I expand to, I go down to the Wando, I might go to Cherry Grove. So I can't, then I go back there a year, 6 months from now, somewhere I don't fish. It's nice to use the waypoints, but yeah.
right. Yeah, okay, yeah. I just wanted to kind of ask you that because I think I've only dropped a couple of waypoints here and there. Like you said, most of the time I can just kind of remember. Oh yeah, it was over here. It was over here. It was the third creek in, and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm not really using it for depth, not in Merle's Inlet at least. I use it for more water temp. I do use it for depth, but I'm not marking fish or anything. What I'm trying to
right.
say. Yeah,
Yep, yep. I'm the exact same way. Water temperature and depth is pretty much the only reason, and the clock, so I'm not constantly, looking at my watch. So, but yeah, I apologize for interrupting you, but I had to pick your brain on that real quick.
no, if this gets too long, feel free to interrupt me because I don't want to bore you. Yeah, no, and then I have the Yak Attack Track Pack combo kit. So it's the 2 boxes, kind of sit off to the side, and they keep all my plastics and my hooks and everything in there. I can throw my phone in there. Um, I have a Yak Attack multi-mount cup holder that I kind of just leave my water or tea or whatever I'm drinking for the day. Um, Oh, what else do I have on there? I use a bending branches paddle on the side there of my
Okay.
um
Does Old Town come with a paddle when you get the kayak?
no,
It
no,
does not. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
I think I started off with the bending branches like carbon fiber, thinking I was going to be the baddest guy out there if I had to paddle this thing, and it was going to be super fast. But that carbon fiber is super thin, and when you're out there in the hitting a hard bottom with it, trying to push off of stuff, it hasn't broke, but I felt like it would, so I switched over to just a regular. Uh, I guess it's plastic, paddle, but one of the bending branches paddles, which I like. And the EPDL, it looks big and heavy, which it is. I think it's 143 pounds without the drive, but it actually paddles pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't paddled it for miles, but if I had to paddle it, it does paddle pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of the same way. My Hoodoo Impulse, I've got the 120, the 12 footer. And again, I don't think I would want to paddle it around for miles, but if for some reason the drive went down, it handles, pretty well. Those bigger kayaks do. So yeah, that's definitely, a good thing. So let me ask you about, you do have a YouTube channel. Tell me about your cameras and how you have those rigged up.
Okay. So I use I used to use GoPro, but now I run all DJI cameras. So
Okay.
um, I think it's the fifth generation or whatever, but same as a GoPro, is no different. Um, I run one around my neck here that I wear a little. I can't think of the company, of course, but it's like a lanyard, and it holds it
Yeah.
in that front view. And I have a Yak Attack. The name's I'm not gonna, but it's a little stand, one of their shorter stands that I
Right.
have drilled into the front of my kayak, and it's facing me, so I get those two views. It's funny you asked me that because I just got a DJI 360, so I just got a 360 camera. I've had it for like 3 months since it came out,
Oh,
but I don't stop long enough to figure, because you got to figure it out. You got to work it into your editing and everything else. So I
yeah.
haven't. That's some plan for next year. That I want to work into. I think you can take the 360 camera and it's getting shots of you, your face, and then also the fish. So when you're catching something, you can zoom it. Like say you're using top water, and you get that bite. Well, the smaller action cameras are so far away without it's hard to zoom in. But that 360, I feel like I'll just be able to zoom in on that, and it'll look a lot cooler. But
Yeah, yeah. Once you start getting, multi cameras going, it definitely takes a lot longer to start editing in. I use three cameras and it's added a couple of hours, just trying to get everything all synced up. But I tell you what, Brian, this is the end of the first segment. It has absolutely flown by. So don't go anywhere. We're talking with Brian of a small craft angler, and you're listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. Well, welcome back, DCO Nation, to Dead Come Outdoors. And guys, during that first segment, Brian and I, we basically went over his kayak rig and talked about, all of the accessories he's had on it. And so now, the second segment, I want to talk about where you've been fishing lately. The December bite has just been absolutely fantastic. Like I said during the introduction of the show, you have just absolutely been slaying the redfish here lately. So let's talk about this trip down to the Wando. I think it was probably, I don't know, maybe about a week ago, something like that. So why don't you kind of walk me through the day? What was the weather like, the tides like, just kind of walk me through that day.
yeah, sure. So yeah, it was about a week ago. I think last Wednesday I went down. I try to fish there and or anywhere in the middle of the week when there's nobody around. It just everything nicer and my life easy. Yeah, I went down there. Normally when I go down there, Chris, I just go down when my kids go to school. Don't get me wrong. I look at the tide, but I fish when I can fish, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I try not to
Mhm.
take family, but what I've tried to do lately, I'd say since September, is actually fish the tide to see if it makes that. I feel like at Merle's Inlet, I'll waste a lot of time not fishing the tide, if that makes sense. I'm just out there running around, and then all of a sudden it picks up. And so anyway, down in
Right.
the I decided I was going to fish the tide. I let the water temperature come up a little bit. So I was fishing the falling tide, and I believe low tide that day was around 1 o'clock, and I believe I got out on the water about 9 a.m. and I started fishing that falling tide. And of course, that day I went out and I got on the water and I started to pedal and I got a couple pedals in and I hit my camera and it said no micro SD card. So if you're a YouTuber, that's not a good thing, everybody. Just so you're wondering, I forgot my cards that day. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I live in Conway, so drove 2 hours down there, get on the water. I did have some backup cards that I put in there, and they seemed like they were working. And one thing I like about the DJI camera is they actually have internal storage, but not, I can't remember what it is, not much. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna get this day or not, but I'm gonna try. Um, so I got out there and I started fishing, and yeah, I got in. It started off kind of slow, to be honest with you. I got into a few trout. I was fishing some top water. It was overcast. It was probably between 53 and 57 degrees, somewhere in there.
Yep.
It was beautiful, to be honest with you. Sun was kind of coming out and going back in. But like I said, I caught a few trout. I caught a few smaller redfish. And then I decided that I actually decided I was going to go in. I said, it's been okay. I don't know, I must have caught 3 or 4 fish. I said, I think I'm going to start heading back. It was probably 1 or 1:30. And I was coming back and I said, I'm going to fish a few docks on the way back. I always hear you actually talking about fishing docks down there. And
Uh-huh.
I don't do that well on the docks. I fish everywhere else. I'm up in the oysters and everywhere, and that's where I seem to catch them. But I don't consider myself a dock fisherman, to be honest with you. I try it here and there. I usually end up on the dock. That really, upsets me, and then I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. You fish enough docks and yeah, you end up catching a lot of docks.
So I'm coming back with the tide as the tide's just starting to come in. It's just switched over and starting to move. And I'm passing docks kind of quickly. And I threw back in between the dock and I just hooked into a red. And I got one. I said, well, they should be grouped up, this time of year. Maybe I'm going to get lucky and find that. I see everybody else do it. Doesn't happen to me. So I start fishing this dock and I just start, I mean, they were there, and the tide just kept moving. And the more that tide was moving, coming in, the incoming tide, the better the bite got. I was catching trout and I was catching redfish. And I mean, I just couldn't leave. I just kept, it was every cast. It was honestly, I just started editing some of the footage. It's honestly unbelievable. And I just couldn't believe it's just never happened to me where it was just fish after all off the same dock. So then I
Wow.
decided to move over. I said I was curious, a dock, and I moved over to one dock over, and that's where all the big boys were staged and girls. And it was crazy. It was like the smaller ones were all, when I say small, slot or under, and then all the big boys were over on the other side. And then I started reeling some of those fish. Those are the ones you're seeing on Instagram, like I said. But
Yeah.
I caught, anywhere from 20 to I think 24 inches that day off of that dock. And I kind of just sat in between those two docks. There was also a lot of rock nearby, and I think that had a lot to do with it. As the tide was coming up into that rock, all that rock had been, whether the sun was hitting or not, there's heat on that rock, and it was just the whole area that I was at. That's why I stopped. That's why I picked those docks. I was looking for something different. I was looking for a depth change. I was looking for rock, oyster, something. And this had a lot of rock, and I said, I'm gonna try that. And man, I honestly couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes a huge difference, especially in the wintertime. We talk about it, we probably don't talk about it enough, but fish are cold-blooded and they are going to go where they're the most comfortable. If it's, let's just say 52 degrees, they're looking for something a little bit warmer. Even a degree or two is much more comfortable for them. So if that rock is, putting off heat and it's 2, 3 degrees warmer, they're going to hug up against that rock. So yeah, man, you hit it just right and you nailed it. So what were you throwing? What were they hitting on?
Um, So mainly it was mainly smaller. I was fishing a few different things, but mainly smaller baits all day is what they were keyed in on. For me, the trout and the redfish seemed to be keyed in on the smaller baits. Um, I was mainly, I don't know if you ever watch my video. I get so once something starts biting, keyed in on something, I will not switch. I just keep fishing. I'll come back tomorrow, fish the same thing. But the Z-Man TRD Tickler Z, I have just been killing him on it, just absolutely killing him. Use some of the swim slims, the kicker crab I've been throwing around, the mirror lure suspending bait, top water heat and spook junior in the morning, and then I've got to have the Hercules 3 inch swim bait with the with the willow blade on there. If it starts getting really windy or whatever, I'll throw that. But I feel like that's a little too big right now. I feel like they were all I would throw different things just to try it, and they wouldn't take it. But every time I threw TRD Tickler Z, man, and the other key was uh, just working that bait super slow, almost dead sticking it. For me,
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. I fished down there a couple of weeks ago with Heath, and we were the scenario is almost lining up the exact same way that your day did. We went down there, didn't get anything on the outgoing tide. It wasn't until the tide turned back around, it started to come back in, and this was probably around, I'm going to say 11, 12 o'clock, something along those lines. And we started fishing docks back, and that's when I started to catch fish. So, I think it had to do with that water was just warming up there in the afternoon. I caught them on the deeper side of the dock. So, not up against the grass, but out towards I'm going to say the front of the dock towards the deeper water where it makes sense. The water is going to be a little bit warmer in that deeper water. So, our days almost lined up exactly the same. I caught them on the little pearl white slim swim, and then on the 2.5 inch prawn star. So the smaller profiles, and again, ultra slow dead sticking these things is so it's kind of crazy how the pattern is the same, a week or two apart from each other. So yeah, man, absolutely, what a great day.
yeah, it was great. And I actually went back real quick just the next day. I just had to prove a point in my mind because I don't always I like that dropping tide. I don't like that incoming tide. Well, man,
Mhm.
it's changed my life and my life view and my opinion on docks too. So I went back. I actually went to the same docks. I wasn't getting much. I kind of moved on, and I came back. The tide was later in the day, but man, it was about an hour before dark at this point, and they just got fired up again, and I just started catch. So the next day, I caught I think 10 redfish and 2 trout. And if it wasn't for dark, I could have stayed there. I hooked into 3 monsters. When I say monsters, I'm talking I had the pole like this and it was bent around my back going back I thought I had a shark. I'm not kidding. And he actually got around the dock and broke me off. And then I locked down. I made the mistake of locking down my drag because I'm trying to pull these guys out. And the next two, I think because I had that drag so tight, as soon as they hit it and I started to fight it, it just broke off. And it
Mhm.
just didn't click while I was out there until I got home. I said, when I say I locked it down, like I didn't leave anything to there, on the bone. But oh man, I mean, it was just not only was it the best day of my year, it was the best day of my life fishing last week down there. I mean, it was
Wow,
that much fun.
that's incredible. Now, were they hitting on the same thing the next day too, the little small baits?
Same. I didn't even take it. I just ran with the Z-Man TRD Tickler Z, and I didn't throw it. I think I threw the Baller Z a couple times because when they broke me off, I said, "Let me just see if they'll hit this." But I could not get them. I don't know if it's because the profile was too big, or I was still kind of just barely moving it, but I couldn't get them to hit that Baller Z, which I hear a lot of people are catching them on it right now, but I just couldn't. But yeah, they like that Tickler Z. Like I said, that small profile, and yeah, they just same thing. It was right before dark again, and I mean, I basically stayed out there until I knew I had to get back to the dock. I wasn't going to be able to see anything. But man,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you talk about the drag, tightening down your drag. I do that around those docks too, because there are so much barnacles and oysters on those pilings that if you don't try to horse them out, they're just going to break you right off because that braid doesn't stand a chance against that oyster, man. I mean, it just cuts it through like a knife through butter. I mean, it just touches that oyster and it cuts that braid. So,
I
yeah,
had first one I had, man. As soon as he wrapped it around there, I knew, and I said, "Oh, I hope he doesn't." As soon as I got the word "break" out of my mouth, too late, broke right, like you said, gone. So
yep. Yep, I've been there too. I've been there too. I've lost a couple where I've made the mistake where I actually casted under the dock on the other side and hooked into a fish. And now I'm trying to get through the pilings to get to the other side. And by that time, he's like coming back towards me, and it's chaos. And then the fish is gone. But anyway, Brian, we're actually coming up to the end. This is crazy. It's gone so fast. But tell everybody how they can follow you, social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
it's make it real easy. It's Small Craft Angler on everything: Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So Small Craft Angler.
Small craft angler, guys. And I tell you what, if you're not following him, go over there, follow him, watch his videos. They are just absolutely awesome. He fishes Merle's Inlet and down in Charleston. He's a great guy, great fisherman. You'll learn a lot from him. And again, Brian, really do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And remember, guys, conservation starts with you. Release a fish for someone else to enjoy. And you've been listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network.